Hi guys! So today we're going to talk about our long distance relationship. So we have a long distance relationship because I decided to go to WSU, Washington State University, and Brandon State where we lived. And we lived about 3 hours away from each other. I lived in Pullman, Washington, where WSU campus is, and he lived in Tri-Cities, Washington. You guys asked us a few questions about long distance relationships, and we wanted to talk about them on here. I wanted to explain a little bit about our situation before we get into all the questions. So we did long distance relationship for a year. So yeah, we were in the same state. We were able to drive back and forth if we really wanted to, and I don't think we would have enjoyed it, but I think that we definitely could have done a long distance relationship that was further away where we couldn't see each other. And I also think that we could have done it longer if we had to. So by any means, I don't think that it being short or closer together had too much of a difference on the outcome of our relationship. Is that how you feel?
Totally. Yeah. But before we get into the questions and stuff like that, I just want to say that a big thing that really helped us be okay in long distance relationship was we had already been in a relationship for over 3 years prior to that. So we were pretty comfortable around each other. We had a lot of trust with each other. I knew she wasn't going to be off with any boys or anything like that. So she knew I wasn't going to be here with girls and stuff like that. We have total trust in each other, and that was the biggest thing. So.
Yeah, because we started dating when we were 16. So we dated all throughout high school, and then we dated a year of college before we had a long distance relationship. And through those years, we've never had a time where we've worried about each other with other people, and it's just we've always had a good relationship where we're best friends first and then our relationship comes second. So I just had a lot of trust and a lot of faith in it, and it wasn't the easiest thing and it wasn't the most fun thing to do, but definitely throughout the whole thing I don't feel like the distance really made our relationship bad. I feel like actually it had a lot more positives in it than negatives, just because we lived 10 minutes away from each other, and we've known each other our whole lives. We met when we were babies, so we've known each other for our whole lives. Once we started dating, we've never had time apart, and so we hung out almost every single day, almost all day long, and we never really got to grow because we dated in times when people grow their most. So I feel like we didn't have enough time to really grow without each other. And so I actually think the long distance was really good for us. So yeah, we're going to talk about that more as we go along, but that's also something to think about if you're in a similar situation. It might benefit your relationship too. Okay, so what are the questions that you have?
So the first one is explain how we did long distance. Basically what we did was made time to call each other. We were probably on the phone, and this might seem a bit excessive, but we were on the phone probably for 2 hours at least every single day, for the most part.
On and off.
We didn't text a lot, but mostly because of me. She texted me. I'm not good at answering texts. Anyone. I'm not good at answering anyone. My mom, my best friend, doesn't matter. I'm not good at that. So I would just call, and we'd talk on the phone for an hour, and then we'd hang up, and then the day would go on, and then I'd call her at the end of the day. We'd talk for another hour, and then we'd go to bed. And it would wake up and do the same thing over. Explain how the first month was. Now, that's not really a question, that's more of a command, but we'll let it slide. So, the first month was, it was definitely the hardest month, I would say, but it was just, it still wasn't that hard, but it was the hardest, if that makes sense. It's just because it's a lot of adjusting, it's a lot of kind of getting used to it. You're so used to them being there day after day that you'll wake up and think, oh, okay, I'm going to hang out with her today. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, I'm not. But, yeah, so then, I don't know, it was kind of an adjusting period, and it kind of got easier from then out.
Yeah, the first month was really difficult. Well, I think it was more difficult for me than it was for you, but I don't know if that's just because I was the one going through it. But because I was away from everyone, not just him, so I had to make friends, and I had to get used to a different lifestyle. And also, when I'd wake up, I saw I was in a different place, and so I couldn't just pretend that he was close by and that I couldn't hang out with him. I had to actually understand I'm actually 3 hours away, and I'm actually I don't know, doing a whole different lifestyle than I was used to. So I think the change made it really hard for the first month. and just getting used to just not having them. But once you got past that first month, it actually got a lot easier.
How difficult was it? So this kind of differs between the two of us. For me, I would say it was actually pretty easy. If I had to go through another year of that, it wasn't that bad. Mostly because I like she just said, I had a lot of family around me. I had a lot of other things. I tend to be one to not really sit and sulk about something and just kind of get up and do something about it. So my way of handling this was just to keep myself busy every single day, whether that was chores or picking up my brother or, I don't know, doing something. I filled my day with something to do all the time. And that's how I kept myself busy enough to where I wasn't constantly thinking about, what Kenzie was up to or stuff like that. I kept my mind off of it, basically. It just worked.
Wait, the question's how difficult was it?
Yeah.
I don't think it was very difficult. Like, our relationship wasn't difficult. What was difficult was just, I guess, when I had barriers of time when I didn't have anyone to hang out with, it would make me think. And also, if I watched The Office, like, I would cry because we would always watch The Office together, and like, he reminds me of Jim a lot. And so I know that I had like patterns throughout my day that would make me think about it, and I would just get like really sad that I couldn't just talk to him. And so I don't know, it definitely had emotional hard times, but the difficulty between us, there were never trust problems, there were never any issue other than, oh my gosh, I just miss him.
How was your relationship different each time you saw each other? It was quite different each time, I would say, depending on there were some times where we'd see each other 2 weekends in a row.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't too much different, but there were other times where we would go like a whole month without seeing each other.
I hated that.
It kind of depended, on the week-to-week basis. I mean, Kenzie changed a lot in this last year, a lot for the better, I would say.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me beforehand, did you have anything to improve on, I would have told you no. But Kenzie found a way to improve on it anyway.
Oh, hey.
So yeah. So by the time I saw her, month to month or week to week, she really developed a relationship with God in a really positive way, and she just grew. There's just a lot of maturity in her that I just saw. It was I think she really needed this individualism, this time alone, to kind of be on her own, to kind of grow up, in just a good way. And it was overall pretty positive changes that I saw in her.
I think that it went the same with Brandon too, because once we were away from each other, we started to realize like what adult life is like, and we just kind of realized, oh, okay, I need to like build this sort of independence. And my independence was more not needing to rely on him for like comfort and for, I guess, decision making wise, because like our values completely align with each other, but I needed to have my values be super concrete regardless if he was around or if he wasn't around. And so I think that was something that I really worked on this year. And then for him, his immaturity was like basically like the day-to-day tiny stuff. So like he relied on me to be like have an agenda for the day and organize everything, and like I wasn't there, so he really had to like step up and like kind of mature in that way. And now at the end of the year, I feel like we're completely different people. And so I think if you are going to go into a long distance relationship, both need to like stay close to God and make sure you guys are going in a positive direction for yourself, because it's really easy if you're not with God to stray away from everything that your values rely on, especially without that person next to you.
Yeah, I would say that would be the only thing that I would even worry about. This kind of leads into the next question, and it says, what was the hardest part? And probably the hardest part was just because I've always held really strong to my beliefs to not drink, not party, not do anything like that. And I'm not 100% sure even now how strong Kenzie was to that, but I think she just knew that I was very, very strong to that, and so I kind of held her to that. And so I would say like the hardest part for me was just making sure that even without me, she would still continue to make those decisions, because even when I'm 21, I'm not going to drink. I just feel like that only leads you in a bad direction. I don't judge people who do, I don't say, people around me when they drink, even my sister drinks. I don't judge them for that. I just personally think there's nothing positive that can come out of it. So I think that you're not heading towards God, and if you're not heading towards God, then you probably shouldn't be making that decision, in my opinion. So that's kind of my belief, and since it's such a belief that I hold really strongly to myself, I expect someone that I'm going to choose to spend the rest of my life with and raise kids with and stuff like that to hold true to my standards as well, and to be strong in my beliefs so we can grow together. And so that was probably the hardest part for me, was just kind of trusting Kenzie to make that decision without me holding her to that, and she did. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that it was really hard because I knew his expectations, and we've had really similar values the whole time, but I think this kind of allowed me to make the decisions on my own, that I want to have those same values and that I want the same things in our life. And I think because I stayed really close to God and in my church at WSU, it really helped me choose God over what a typical college person chooses. And so not that there's a huge issue with drinking or anything, it's just that being around that atmosphere when you can see parties going on and you can hear them and everything, I can see how it doesn't give you life. So if it's not going to give you life, it's going to give you death. And so even though it's not a sin to drink, it's a sin to get drunk, drinking leads to getting drunk, and drinking leads to bad decisions. So it's just kind of like a spiral effect. And also, Brandon has history in his family of alcoholics, and so that's something that we just don't really want to expose our kids to in the future.
It says, was the best way to stay connected is the next question. And again, it's just finding time in the middle of my day to call her for, while I was going on a drive, or when I was running errands, or when I was just sitting at home, I would just call her, and we'd talk for about an hour to an hour and a half each phone call we had. Rarely did our phone calls last 2 to 10 minutes, and it was just pretty rare.
Yeah, we'd either FaceTime or we'd call, and it mainly I think was calling, but we FaceTime quite a bit. And we, no matter what our plans were that night, we wanted to make sure we talked, so we'd always block out a time that day to kind of just say goodnight and hear about each other's day, because when you don't see each other and you don't live near each other, you miss out really quickly. And so things would go by so quickly that he wouldn't know about, and so I had to catch him up, and then he would catch me up on his life too.
Got an app called Google Duo, which is like FaceTime, but it's a little bit better because you can mess with other apps and things. And so we would FaceTime because most people when they're late at night, they go on Instagram or they go on Twitter, or they go on YouTube or whatever it is. And Google Duo allows you to do those apps and do those things while you're FaceTiming each other. And so we would do that together late at night just while we were video chatting, because we're 3 hours away and we're going to be on our phones just joking around anyways, so yeah, why not be FaceTiming each other while we do it? So yeah, that Google Duo app helped quite a bit with just being able to see each other more. So the next question is, was it hard for you emotionally? So this is by far the best question I've ever heard in my entire life. Whoever came up with this is a genius, obviously.
Why?
I wrote it.
Oh, you wrote it!
Yeah.
I was why do you like this?
Yeah, I would say no, it wasn't very hard on me emotionally.
Goodness, Brandon, you have no heart.
Yeah, I'm most of the time not a very emotional person.
You're emotional, you just don't show it at all. I cried a lot the first month. I would call him crying, emotionally. And then every time I'd see him, I'd cry a little bit. And it was only for the first month that I really did that. And so, okay, throughout the year, I would call you when I was emotional, but it wasn't every single day. My tip is you need to check your relationship with God, both of you guys beforehand and during. Just constantly check and keep each other on top of it. I think a good thing to do that we didn't do a very good job of was pray together and try to just have a lot of conversations about God and about where you're at in your relationship. Another thing is to try to have a set schedule of when you guys want to talk every day, because it can get hard because you're living two different lives. So basically you're going to have things that come up every day, and so to make sure that you guys make time to talk every day is just to have that set in stone on 1 hour that you guys want to catch up.
So One of my tips, I would say, the biggest one is to be able to definitely trust each other, because I would say that is like the absolute biggest thing that we had to do in our relationship to be able to make this long distance thing work. Is I just 100% knew in my heart that Kinsey and I were going to be perfectly okay, and that I knew she wasn't going to be out doing things that I wouldn't really approve of and things that would make me uncomfortable. And that's another thing is that it's not really a good time to test your partner. Like,
don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't do
if
that.
if you feel like at the time like, oh well, you know, I need them to be able to trust me around these boys or do this and do that, and they're uncomfortable with it, I would just say not worth it. Just wait till you can meet up again and see each other again, because if you are doing something that makes him or her uncomfortable, then
it's magnified when you guys are apart.
Everything's under a magnifying glass when you guys are apart. And I recommend just trying to stay within their comfort zone. Don't try to say, well, I don't want them to control me, so I'm going to be off doing what I want, and that's not going to end well.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for you guys. If we didn't answer something and you guys have extra questions, just comment down below or message us on Instagram and we'll try to answer. So right now we're gonna go head out. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.